Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head to another new brewery who I have never tried anything from. These guys have only started up within the last kind of 18 months or something like that, so very new brewery. For this one we are going to go to Västmanland county, out to the west of Stockholm of course, and we're having a taste of my first beer from the Ferna Forge Brewery. So this one is their Killinghammer. It's a New England IPA coming in at 6.2%, so it should be really quite nice. To be honest with you, when I saw the name, it was the name of this that really attracted me to it, and I just thought, you know, why not? It sounds like a pretty, you know, heavy metal name, and if anything's heavy metal, then, you know, that's always a good thing in my experience. But yeah, New England IPA coming in at 6.5% ABV from another of the numerous little craft breweries popping up over here in Sweden these days. So very much looking forward to this one, and as always, I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. It's always cool to introduce you guys to these very small, kind of unknown Swedish breweries. So I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from the Ferna Forge Brewery. Very first time I'm tasting one of their beers, of course. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Ferna Forge Brewery then. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Ferna Forge Brewery are based in Västmanland county. So to be specific, they're from a little very small village called Ferna, which is in the heart of the Bergslaten, which is, you know, it's a massive big forest out in that area. But it's on the outskirts of Skinnskatteberg, which is to the northwest of Västerås, out to the west of Stockholm in Västmanland county. A lot of names getting thrown around there. But the company was founded back in 2017 by Joachim Pedersen, Marco Taipale and also Henrik Blomster, who all came from a home brewing background. But apparently a number of years previously, Marco and Peder had started home brewing, and then they started to think about actually expanding their hobby and starting a business together, and this was when Henrik joined them. So Ferna has a history that's really kind of associated with metal smithing and stuff like that, so they decided to choose the English word of forge as a name for this brewery. You know, a forge in England really is just you know, it's where they used to make weapons. They used to forge armour and weapons and all these kind of things. So they decided to go for a kind of more English name to this brewery, as I guess just as to make it stand out a little. But they started brewing on a very small 500 litre brewery. They are planning to expand that over the next little while, but they do have 3 different 500 litre fermentation tanks as well. And they were still working other jobs, from what I understand too, while working part-time with the brewery, but they aim to expand the brewery so one of them or all of them can actually survive from working just for their own company. But after positive feedback, they went to the Smålands Öl Festival and they got some very positive feedback about their beers. They decided to seriously think about expanding their business further. But as far as I can remember, I think this is the first beer that I've seen released nationwide from them, Systembolaget. I really didn't recognise the name of this brewery when I was searching it earlier, but obviously I'm getting this one down in Skåne county. So, you know, they must be available nationwide throughout Sweden. And it's always cool, as I say, when they release. This one was released on the 1st of February in 2019. It's one of the things I always do. When they have these kind of quarterly releases, I just, you know, go through all the ones and kind of pick ones that I think sound quite interesting. And you always discover some really kind of random little breweries like this. And as I always say, it's very cool to introduce you guys to these new little breweries here on the channel. It's always cool to try different things from different parts of Sweden, of course. But yeah, that's all I was really able to find on the brewery. There was only one article on beernews.se, so that tells you about how new a brewery this one is, because they write a hell of a lot of stuff about all the different craft breweries. But they're only around 18 months old from what I gather. They started planning their brewery back in February or March of 2017. They had it up and running by around June and July. They had the first beers sort of getting out there, and they've been kind of just working on it ever since. So yeah, very cool. But that's all you need to know about the brewery just now. Now, as I always say, check out the website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. But yeah, let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this one before we open it up then. There you can see, there's the guy obviously forging some weapons on his anvil out there. Anvil, of course, a very good Canadian metal band, and you know, the name of this one I just thought was really cool. There you can see the Ferna Forge Brewery symbol. Let me just check you're seeing that on the camera there. Really nicely presented, this one. But yeah, plain orange bottle cap, which matches the artwork nicely. Doesn't say too much about the beer or anything. It just says basically the ingredients are water, corn malt, wheat malt, hops and yeast. So yeah, a strong beer brewed in the heart of Bergslagen forest. So yeah, very nicely presented. So without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. A 6.5% New England IPA from Ferna Forge Brewery. So yeah, out and into the glass. So appearance wise, to be honest, nothing particularly surprising about this one. In terms of its appearance, it does look pretty similar to, you know, it's pretty similar to all the other ones you're going to get out there. The New England IPA, of course, is a very, very popular style these days. A lot of breweries are trying their hand at this one. So on this beer, solid finger of a frothy, I would say, slightly creamy coloured head. This one, it does have a little bit of a creamy kind of colour to it rather than being perfect white. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass on this one, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head, but not very much carbonation visible on this one at all. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see the beer is really quite quite hazy, to be honest. If I hold it up to the light, of course, you do get a little degree of transparency to it. It's not as hazy as some of the ones you can get that are, you know, very, very thick, but you know, the colour for me and the amount of haze isn't the most important thing. It's more about how the kind of flavours go together. And in terms of colour, I would describe this one as being a little bit on the kind of lighter side of orange. It's a sort of lighter orangey quality. It's about the same colour in the glass as about here on the bottle. I'm not sure just how well the light is bringing out the colour of this beer, but I would say a lighter kind of orangey colour, leaning a little bit more towards the yellowy sort of side of orange. But as I said, overall, in terms of its appearance, nothing overly surprising about this one when you consider that it is a New England IPA. But let's get a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Oh, now that smells interesting. Yeah. This one almost has like a little bit of melon to it or something. You know, definitely some orangey qualities to it. A little bit, I really want to say melon. That's the first fruit that comes into my head with this one. I know, you know, I'm wondering, are they using a little bit of Styrian wolf or something like that in this beer? I always like playing guess the hops with these beers, but to me, it's just got a melony quality in there and a bit. You know, there's just something in my head that's screaming out, you know, Slovenian Styrian wolf about this beer. But yeah, a little touch of orange in there as well, a sort of more of a tangerine kind of note. But yeah, the fruity qualities in this one are really unusual. It's definitely got, to me, it's got a little bit of a melony quality to it. There's some orange in there. There's a sort of like, there's definitely, I don't think it's quite mangoes, to be honest with you. I think it's more of a kind of apricot-y kind of quality kind of mixing in with it as well, or papayas, you know, something like that. There is an element of a kind of tropical fruit quality to this one, but there really is just something in my head there saying that this one is melon. Maybe there's a little touch of a kind of pineapple-y note in there as well with all those tropical fruits, but you know, it does smell like, it just smells very, very nice. There, as I say, there's just something in my head that's jumping out and saying that's melon. So yeah, I'd be very curious to know what hops they've used in this one. So I think melons, oranges, a little bit of a more tangerine orange, to be honest with you, and some kind of slightly apricot-y, papaya-y sort of aromas coming out of this beer. But it's got a lovely fruity quality to it, I have to say. I really like what's coming out of the aroma in this one. It smells very, very nice. On the green side of the hops, I would say this one's leaning more towards the grassy side of things rather than anything else. There's not too much of a kind of spicy floral aromaticity to this beer. It is leaning more towards that fruity, juicy side of things, and some of the grassy notes are mixing in there, but with that kind of almost melony quality coming out of the aroma there. It's just, it really, that lighter grassiness really works quite well with it. But yeah, when you take the aroma in, just a little bit more deeply, maybe you're getting a little bit more of a kind of mango-y note out of this one. But the aroma of this beer is certainly really interesting. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But this is one that's definitely caught my interest in terms of the aroma. The malt base of this one's quite interesting too. The aroma, to be honest, to me, comes across as really quite sweet. There's a good little bit of a biscuity quality in there, sort of almost like Jacob's cream crackers or something like that. I don't know how good a descriptor that is for Swedish people right enough, but it really does remind me of these Jacob's cream crackers that we would get back home in Scotland, that you would put the butter on, put a bit of cheese on, and if you just have them with the butter right enough, the aroma that you get off of that really reminds me of what's coming out of this beer. It's definitely got a bit of that almost McVitie's digestive biscuit sweetness to it as well. The aroma in that really reminds me of that. There's not much in the way, in the aroma at least, of the kind of white bready, that almost wheaty quality and oaty creaminess. To me, the aroma in the malt base here is definitely a lot sweeter than I've come across in other New England IPAs. But it smells really interesting. I mean, this is one of these ones, it does smell almost lighter in the malt base. I'm very curious about this. The aroma in this one, as I say, is quite unusual for the style. But you know, as I always say, go into beers with an open mind, but the fruity notes in this are very nice. It leans a little bit more towards the sweeter side of the malty scale, and also a little bit more towards the kind of juicy, fruity side of it as well. But it smells like a really, really interesting beer. So without further ado, let's have a go at this one and just see how we get on. This is the Killinghammer New England IPA. It's 6.5% from the Ferna Forest Brewery in Ferna, just near Västerås in Västmanland County, up near the Stockholm area in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Oh yeah. Okay. So this one to me, I really like how this one's going together. I mean, I'm wondering, I recognise, from doing a little bit of homebrewing myself, I recognise the yeast in this one. The yeast that they've used here is quite interesting. This one, it's a nice beer. It is a nice beer, but it's not quite what you would expect from a New England IPA. It's a lot sweeter in its mouthfeel. Or it's a lot sweeter in its malt base, I think, than you would normally expect from the New England IPA. But I do like what they've done with this one. Yeah, I mean, it's one of these beers that it has this sort of homebrewed vibe to it, to be honest with you. It has, you know, it's one of these beers that it's like a really nice kind of homebrew beer, and you know, I can see why at the festivals this one would get a good bit of plaudit, to be honest. I think they've done a nice job of this. I'll say that straight away. It's definitely got some of the way that the malty qualities in this one are coming out. It's just got that real sort of homebrewed vibe about it, the way some of the biscuity malts and stuff like that are working in this one. Let's try and focus on that malt base a little bit more and just kind of see what we get out of it. Yeah, so for me, with this one, you can feel a little bit of that kind of pale malty quality. That just blankets the middle of your palate in this one. On top of that, you do feel the further into the aftertaste you go with this one. I think there is a little bit of a kind of thicker, white bready, wheaty quality to this one. And then in the very centre of your palate, that's where the sort of malty sweetness really comes out of this one. There's something in my head makes me want to say there's maybe a little bit of Maris Otter in this. It's definitely got a little bit of that. It's almost got a little bit of that slightly sweet brown bready quality to it, and in the very centre of your palate there's a little tiny touch of that sort of almost corn syrupy McVitie's digestive sort of sweetness in this beer. The further you go into the aftertaste, I think there's a little bit more of a graininess kind of pushing out of this one, but there's not too much in the way of a kind of oaty sweetness, I think. I think that's the thing that this beer, in terms of it being a New England IPA, is missing a little bit of the kind of oatiness to the malt base. As a kind of standalone beer, if you like, it is really nice, but the thing is, if it's a New England IPA, I think it needs a little bit more of the kind of oaty creaminess to it, but because the malt base, to me, to be honest with you, I'd say the malt base to me comes across as being a little bit more kind of West Coasty, to be honest. And I mean, it's, you know, we can get hung up about different styles all day, but you know, this beer, to me, it has a little bit more of a West Coasty vibe to it. It's got the haze and it has the appearance of the New England IPA, but I think the flavours are a little bit more akin to the West Coast IPA. But as I say, that said, it is a good beer, and as an IPA, it's a nice beer. So bear that in mind with this one. But yeah, it's one of these ones, as I say, very kind of homebrewed vibe about this beer, and that's what I like about it. That's what craft beer brewing is kind of is all about in this. The further into the aftertaste you go, the malt base, some of the grainy notes start to push their way out of the malt base in this one. On the hoppy side of things, in the back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of a slightly earthy note to this one. You can really pick out a little touch of earthy quality there. As you come further forward, that just smooths out a little bit. Then you get towards the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more kind of grassy and floral, maybe even a little touch spicy there. You know, there could be a little bit of Columbus or something like that in this one, because the floral aromaticity in this beer, I think, is quite distinctive, and there's just something in my head that's saying it's Columbus. But round the very front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy, and behind the front curve of the tongue, of course, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to make their way out of the beer. So for me with this one, I'm just interested. As I say, I always like playing guess the hops with these beers. Yeah, for me, this one, it's definitely got an orangey vibe to it. The question would be then, if it's got orange in it, is it is it Amarillo or is it Mosaic? Because Mosaic gives you a little bit of the more juicy kind of tangerine note to it, whereas the Amarillo gives you a little bit more of the oily orange, and it's quite difficult to pick out with this beer. I'm leaning a little bit more towards saying Mosaic, to be honest with you. There could be a little bit of Mosaic in this one, but the further into the aftertaste you go, you start to get a little bit more, you do start to get a little bit more of the melony flavour that I was talking about. I do get a little bit of that in this the further we go into the aftertaste, but the further you go into the fruits as well, there is almost, as I say, a little touch of that apricot-y flavour. I don't think mangoes in this one, I definitely don't think mangoes, but there is almost just a little touch of that kind of papaya flavour in there as well. The fruity complexities in this one are really nice. It's almost got a little bit of a slightly gooseberry vibe to it as well. Melons and gooseberries are the fruits that are kind of jumping out at me with this one. But yeah, this is a nice beer, this one. As I say, it's the way that the hops and things come out in this beer are really nice, and the malt base itself, I like how that's working as well. It's got a good balance between the smoothness and the sweetness, but it leans a little bit more towards the sweetness, and that makes me think, a slightly more West Coast-ish IPA, this one, although in terms of appearance, it does have the haze. And as I say, you don't want to get too hung up on different styles and things like that, but they are saying, if they just said like a IPA on this one, you could get away with it. But in terms of it being a New England IPA, to me, it's just got a bit more of a West Coasty vibe. But the main question, I think, should be, is it a good beer? And yeah, I would say it's a good beer. I would drink it again. I think it's a nice one. To be honest with you, I've been missing some of the sweetness that you get in the malt bases of the West Coast IPAs. So, and in fairness too, I have said in other videos that some of these New England IPAs are getting a little bit more sweet in the malt base and getting slightly more bitter as well. They're starting to move back from this hazy, juicy kind of thing a little bit to incorporating a few of the features that you like from the from the West Coast IPAs, so maybe that's a kind of thing of this. Maybe that's what they're going for with this beer. They like the West Coast IPAs a little bit, so they've put a little element of that into their own take on the New England IPA. Maybe that's kind of what they were going for with this beer, but you don't know unless you actually talk to the brewers directly. But in terms of you know, is it a good beer? I would definitely say that it is with this one. I would definitely drink this again. But yeah, in terms of the fruits, like I say, the further you go into the aftertaste, gooseberries, a little bit of an almost melony quality coming out of this one, and some of the orangey qualities are just lingering there as well. Nice bit of floral aromaticity kind of sitting on the side of the tongue, and you've also got a slightly sweeter quality from the malt base in this as well. So in terms of the in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, then I would say mid-bodied beer, carbonation's very smooth. The mouthfeel leans a little bit more towards the oily side of things, and that's the sweetness from the malt base that's given it a little bit more of an oily character rather than more of a creamy character that you could normally expect from a New England IPA. In terms of IBUs, yeah, I mean, this one's got a good little bit of hoppy bitterness. It would be around the sort of I think it's about the 40 kind of mark, somewhere around the 40 IBU mark with this beer. Good mix of sweetness and a little touch of smoothness in there in the malt base. As I say, it gets a little bit more grainy the further into the aftertaste you go, but also a nice little bit of a juicy fruity character to it as well. So I think a fair way to sum up this beer is that it's quite interesting. It's one that will test your palate a little bit, and to me it strikes me as one of these New England IPAs that's trying to incorporate a few of the things that we really like about the West Coast IPAs as well. So for me, really nice, really interesting beer, this one. I've enjoyed reviewing this actually because it is one that's made me think a little bit. And I like what they've done with this one. So it's one of these New England IPAs. It takes a little bit of the West Coast into it, and it does retain a little bit of that kind of homebrewed vibe. And to be honest, it's rather than reviewing the beers that are, you know, kind of big commercial craft beers, if you like, or big, you know, inverted commas big, this one really has that homebrewed vibe about it, and that's what you want from when you're reviewing some of these beers from time to time. So thumbs up to the guys at Ferna Brewery for this one. I'd be very curious to see what they've created in their other beers as well. As you know, I've enjoyed reviewing this one, and I'm sure I'll return to these guys in the fairly near future. Maybe I'll even catch up with them at one of these festivals at some point. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Killinghammer New England IPA at 6.5% from the Ferna Brewery in Ferna, just near Västerås, up to in the Stockholm kind of area of Sweden. A really interesting beer, this one that's made me think a lot, and I always enjoy that when it comes to these beer reviews. So yeah, make sure you can have a go at this beer if you get the chance. Very, very small brewery who are just kind of taking off, if you like. I've enjoyed reviewing this one. I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it. As always, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Ferna Brewery as well, if you've tried them before, and hopefully I can return to these guys in the fairly near future. So until the next time, slàinte just now, make sure you check out my social media, and I will catch you guys soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers.